After months of being seen as a party in free fall, in disarray, lurching from one crisis to the next, the Congress finally seemed to get its mojo back in the last few days, with Rahul Gandhi's loud promise of wealth redistribution becoming the central theme in the Modi machine's campaign rallies and speeches. From being a party that had been relegated to constantly reacting to everything the BJP said or did, the Congress, for a brief moment there, had turned the tables. Now it's the BJP reacting to what the Congress has said. Perhaps for the first time in a decade, the Congress was setting the agenda, forcing the conversation and leading the leader. Not an easy task when you're up against the obsessively active BJP. The truth is, however, viewer, the Congress's biggest enemy isn't the BJP. And as Gandhi family friend Sam Pitroda has cheerfully reminded us today of that powerful old cliche, with friends like these, who even needs enemies? Consider this for a moment. A party dismissed by most as being anything but battle-ready for 2024 is suddenly the center point of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's attacks from his rally stage. At a time when the BJP's campaign agenda has been far more about Viksit Bharat and Modi's personal vision for the country, the Congress's super socialist googly of wealth redistribution suddenly catches the BJP in the headlights, forcing the entire BJP top brass to make a Congress manifesto promise its mudda number one in every speech or soundbite. That's the kind of traction and resonance the Congress has been dreaming of for a decade and not managed to obtain on a national level until now. But the moment never lasts with the Congress party. And why? Because Sam Pitroda, for no reason at all, gets on a Zoom call with the Indian media and wonders aloud about a controversial inheritance tax in the context of Rahul Gandhi's promise of wealth redistribution. What did Pitroda expect? Hasn't he been in precisely this situation before in 2019? Doesn't everyone remember the Hua to Hua episode? Isn't he aware of the implications of what he's saying? Don't his clarifications and pompous claims of being free to have an opinion in a democracy ring hollow when he has stupidly chosen to speak at a time when this issue has gone nuclear hot in India's political battlefield? Like Manishankar Iyer and Digvijay Singh before him, Sam Pitroda is no stranger to getting caught with an ill-advised comment by a justifiably hyperactive BJP and social media. But that's precisely the Congress's curse, that even when it has finally got the kind of national issue traction it has been yearning for 10 years without success, it is still someone on the inside who torpedoes it with this kind of silly indiscipline. What was more important for Sam Pitroda, I'm curious, to exercise his right to an opinion during a manic crossfire, or to recognize that he has harmed the party in the past and must simply resist the urge to open his mouth? But this goes beyond Sam Pitroda, viewer, because by bringing up something as controversial as inheritance tax, something that Rajiv Gandhi himself had abolished when he was Prime Minister in the 80s, Pitroda has revealed perhaps the true nature of the Congress's wealth redistribution promise, something that few are willing to call out, but I will do so today. The Congress's extreme left tilt, its headlong plunge into uber socialism with Rahul Gandhi's wealth X-rays, is not so much, in my view, a lofty vision for poverty alleviation and equitable growth, but about the very survival of the Congress party. Now, we can debate the wisdom of redistribution promises in a country that's on a growth path. But one needs to remember, viewer, that the Congress party faces a third possible defeat in the current Lok Sabha election. Far from the luxury of having an alternate vision to the BJP's, the Congress has realized it literally needs to go for broke if it is to have a fighting chance against Modi. Go big or go home is the mantra for the Congress party. And the only way to do this is to be laser focused on this idea of Robin Hood, taking from the rich and distributing to the poor. Now, the Congress doesn't get bogged down by pundits wondering how this will happen, because for the Congress, the objective right now isn't to figure out how to distribute wealth, but use this resonant promise to unseat the BJP and come to power. The details of a promise can always be tweaked and worked on, and U-turns can be taken on them once government formation actually happens. The point is, after two massive defeats in 2014 and 2019, and with its third attempt looking lackluster this year, the Congress believes it doesn't have the luxury of moderation in manifesto promises. It has to go big or go home. And that's perhaps the atmosphere in which a Sam Pitroda comes along and believes he can throw around phrases like inheritance tax. The Congress has attempted to craft its vision as a rich versus poor war, as a fight for justice to uplift those who've been ignored while wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few. No matter what you think of socialism and the create versus redistribute argument, the Congress is unbothered by critics and naysayers because it is finally convinced that the only priority now is to return to power. Not to debate, we'll think about how to pay the bills later, not to argue, not to convince, not to persuade, but to return to power at all costs. It doesn't matter if the promises sound tentative and ad hoc. This is about defeating the BJP for the Congress party. Everything else is a small detail. And that's where the issue of credibility comes in. Is the Congress party in a position to be seen as the messiah of a nationwide poverty alleviation campaign? It isn't just a question I'm asking. It's clearly something that bothers Rahul Gandhi too, given that he combatively attempted to debunk perceptions today of him as a non-serious politician. He actually listed schemes under the UPA government. A government, mind you, he wasn't and refused to be part of, but that's a different story. Credibility on this epic Garibi Hatao campaign by the Congress also boils down to whether Rahul Gandhi has earned faith with viral claims of money reaching people's accounts, khatakat, only to sheepishly clarify a few days later that he didn't quite mean that. A promise may be resonant. A promise of poverty alleviation will always be evocative, but it also needs to be backed by political credibility. By being triggered, the BJP has demonstrated that the core of the Congress's promise of wealth redistribution is resonant enough to take on directly. But will voters buy the promise or wonder about the true intent of such an unprecedented vow? Ultimately, it's good to finally, viewers, see some energy in the electoral discourse. It's good to see the Congress find at least some of its mojo. But as the Congress has learned too often in the past, sometimes its enemies are sitting a whole lot closer than 7 Lok Kalyan Marg.